Share screen. Okay, this is Reb Tzaddik on Pesach from the Pri Tzaddik. Chapter 1, Siman Aleph. B'chag yizeh yesh achilas mitzvah. On Pesach we have the achila, which is a mitzvah. Shemevarchim alav b'shek yisham b'tzah b'tzibanu. Now it's interesting if you know people don't realize it. There's no other mitzvah of eating in which you make a bracha shek yisham b'tzah b'tzibanu. Yes, we have a shek yisham b'tzah b'tzibanu leishe basukah we have, but it's not a bracha on eating per se. There's no other bracha we make the entire year on eating anything. About shek yisham b'tzah b'tzibanu. Did you ever realize that before? What?
No.
No, because until I learned this from Tzaddik, I never realized it either. So, so eating eating on the mitzvah, and of course, when as he's going to say, when there's a korban Pesach, then there was a bracha on eating korban Pesach as well. Pesach, and we still have the bracha achilas morar. So we have three brachas on, even though we only make two, and only one of them is the Raisa, because the bracha achilas morar kizman hazeh morar is only the Rabbanan. And nevertheless, we have three brachas on achilas the night of Pesach, which we don't have the rest of the year. And even based on as much time, there's only a chiyuv to eat a korban once a year. The chiyuv is only on the night of Pesach. There's no other chiyuv the rest of the year to eat from a korban. Okay, so shemachnis achila kedusha. So this night of Pesach brings kedusha into the eating of the entire year. It's that mitzvah of achila is the mitzvah on which food eating the entire year is uplifted. Now achila Shabbos. What about eating on Shabbos? Eating on Shabbos is also a mitzvah. There's no bracha. We have no bracha shek yisham b'tzivon al enik Shabbos or achila Shabbos. Certainly not. Mash'en achilas Pesach shu korban, opposed to eating Pesach, which is korban v'sodasa the malka. Lachmi, it should be lishai, I think. So it's eating the korban Pesach was kaviyachol, so to speak, eating together with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right, because the whole idea of a korban is to bring us close to Hashem. You know, the English translation of korban is sacrifice, but it was a very bad translation because it's not what korban means. Even offering is not a good translation. Korban means to come close, right? Lakriv, to bring something close, to bring ourselves close. The idea of a korban, when there were korbanos, was to bring ourselves close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that is like that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that korban lachmi yishai, right? It's what it's as if Hashem is saying, "This is my bread, and you're going to partake of it." And there shekasuv Yisrael mefar b'Zohar Chodesh Gimel Zayin Beis Yisrael mefar Solavir Shvashamayim. Korban is a tremendous chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's actually kind of like a charade, but it's a charade which became a mitzvah, which makes it important. Which is that it's as if we're feeding Hashem. Right, of course, Hashem doesn't eat and doesn't need our food and doesn't need our karbanos, but it's a chesed with us that we can, so to speak, host HaKadosh Baruch Hu with at a meal which becomes his meal and our meal together. Achilas mitzvah, the first mitzvah in the Torah, meaning the first mitzvah which was given to Am Yisrael as a nation, was Korban Pesach. There are other mitzvahs, of course, in Bereshis, Bris Milah, Noshe, but Puravu, but those mitzvahs were not given to Am Yisrael as a nation. Either they were given beforehand, or according to the Rambam, they were given at Har Sinai afterwards. Right? Yes, they are found in the Torah prior to Korban Pesach, but the first mitzvah given to Am Yisrael was Korban Pesach, and later on the other mitzvahs which were given as mitzvahs. Even there was a chiyuv of milah before Har Sinai. Even there was a chiyuv of not to eat noshe for Har Sinai. Nonetheless, it wasn't as a mitzvah. It was a minhag, which the children of Avraham Avinu adopted, but it wasn't a mitzvah of the Jewish people.
Wasn't that mitzvah of the Korban Pesach only for the first year?
What?
Wasn't that mitzvah of Korban Pesach only for the first Pesach?
No, the mitzvah is given for all generations, but they're patim Korban Pesach after the first year. So it's in the midbar, they're patim Korban Pesach. It wasn't the mitzvah wasn't Noah, there was a mitzvah, but they were patim from it because they couldn't do bris milah, whatever the technical reasons were, but the mitzvah still was in effect. Shabbat Taki. So why is this? So he says Achilas mitzvah Shabbat Taki Akilkush Adam Arishon. The eating of the Korban Pesach and the Achilas mitzvah is Achilas mitzvah, which comes to fix the kilkul of Adam Rishon, because kilkul of Adam Rishon was Shu Shorish Haslasas Anochash. That was the seduction of the snake. Lachnis Taiva Bachila. The first taiva we find in the Torah, the first avera is taiva sachila, eating something which you're not supposed to eat, right? By Chabad says, "Batera nechmana eitz laskil b'tavohu leinayim." There was the word taiva appears there for the first time. That it was something which she desired, and therefore she ate, and then she also caused her husband to desire it, and he ate. But so Nachash persuaded her to eat out of not l'shem kedusha, because you can't eat eitz hadas at that point, at least l'shem kedusha. You can only eat out of a taiva. People in Nachash said v'isam kelokim. He didn't mean it. You should eat l'shem shamayim, of course. It meant you have a taiva to be a god, so eat from this tree. B'zman I can't stand this fire. These things always typos. It should be she'ein lanu Pesach. We don't have the Pesach. Yesh achilas mitzvah matzah umar. We still have achilas mitzvah. We still have matzah umar. Shebarach le'mashek l'shem mitzvah v'tzibanu. L'chein mitchila isa. Also, it says even at the beginning of creation, Adam nivar b'erev Shabbos kidei she'ikones l'suda Shabbos miyad. Adam was created on the Shabbos, so she immediately come to the Shabbos. By the Achila Shabbos, Bolta came Pagam Adam Marisha Machila. And because although it was too late to have a full tikkun, right? It was not possible at that time, but at least there should be an Achilas mitzvah, which immediately comes after the Achilas taiva of the sin of Erev Shabbos. But why is that, or how does it work? So he says, the bemes kochius armishon hoya mitzvah. The anything armishon a was a mitzvah. I'm going to switch to. I did this last time too. This is not too many typos here. 1 second. Switch to another version of this. Now watch this one. I'll have typos too, with my luck. Yeah, mitchila isa. Adni v'Reb Shabbos kein kshonis l'suda miyad. Bavas Rabbi Nasser Agiratza k'dei shikonis l'suda Shabbos miyad. So it was in order to immediately come to Suda Shabbos, not just Suda, but Suda Shabbos. By Chil Shabbos Ataki Mashbukarim Adam Rishon. By of the members Kochis and Rishon Mitzvah Kosh because a Baal Asora Ma'amoros, not Patal. Asora Ma'amoros Me'ar Ramazal. The Ramami Pana was one of the Italian Mekubalim. It was one of the Talmidim of the Arizal. The mitzvah says, "Adam Rishon Yom Yikol Eitz Sagan Ochol Tochel." Adam Rishon was given mitzvahs. It says, "Began Eden Lovda L'Shomra," and Chazal say, "Lovda Zemitzvah Sasei, L'Shomra Zemitzvah Lo Sasei." So Adam was given mitzvahs, but was given according to the Ramai Ban of the mitzvah Sasei. He was given the mitzvah Lo Sasei. We know not to eat from the Eitz Hadas and Eitz HaChaim. What was the mitzvah Sasei? The flip side, the same pasuk, right? It says, "We call Eitz Hagan Ochol Tochel." right? You should eat from all the fruit of the trees, the rest of the trees. This is kill cow. There are also typos. He ruined this. Mitzvah says that, and he didn't fulfill his mitzvah. Unless it's going to be fulfilled eventually into the future. It's interesting. The Yerushalmi in Kiddushin says that, and the Shulchan Aruch doesn't mean this down, but the Kitzur does. When a person comes up to Shemayim, they're going to ask him, listen, you saw this new fruit, a dragon fruit. Why did you taste it? You should have tasted the dragon fruit. You saw a kiwi. You never had a kiwi before. Why don't you taste the kiwi? When you get up to Shemayim, they're going to ask you, on everything you saw in this world and you didn't eat, obviously, which is you can't eat, why didn't you eat it? So his idea is that a person is supposed to eat and taste the niflos habayre, right? And understand what the godless of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Priya is, and come that way to HaKarav HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and come to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even without the special qualities which exist in the in the trees of the Gan Eden. Rabbi Yaakov Weinberg and Rabbi Avigdor Miller both have a description of how you eat a fruit with Shem Shamayim. How you first appreciate it, you look at it and you think about how the skin protects the inside, allows the inside to grow, and how the taste of the fruits, and how we appreciate how it, especially in an orange, how the citrus fruit works, and an apple, how the apple works, and a whole elaborate discussion of what a person could do and ideally should do when eating fruit. We, of course, don't do any of that. But that is any eating of anything which comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even if it's not from the Gan Eden, should have also a connection to Avodas Hashem and be able to give us an appreciation of Hashem. But in any event, he didn't do the mitzvah right. It becomes a seed, and it won't be fulfilled until the eventual future when we have that madrega of Gan Eden left again, back again. Come, ain't zachilas mitzvah. Kamo achilas Shabbos. Shukr karbanos suda de malkusa. Nevertheless, this again, I don't think it's a typo here. That achilas, our achilas mitzvah of Pesach is a higher madrega than achilas Shabbos because it's karbanos. Even we don't have Pesach nowadays. We have matzah, and that is a higher madrega because again, Shabbos is and kol eitzagana chol tochel. Right, they're similar in that there's a general mitzvah, but not a specific mitzvah. So it's a good thing to eat, but it doesn't have that quality of karbanos, which bring us close to, directly in connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's as if we are in feeding HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. So therefore, yes, there's a general uplifting of eating on Shabbos, anything you eat on Shabbos, on Shabbos, and just like there's a general mitzvah to eat in the Kol Eitzagan, but a mitzvah on a specific food, and to eat that food, that on a mission is not having an Eden, it doesn't exist in Achilas Shabbos. It only comes back into effect with the Achilah of Korban Pesach, many thousands of years later. The Zed the Goris, officer in Nesach Kadesh, she calls it Shabbos Miyad. The talking Pabkam Shugar Pagam Ba'Achila. Then, so it's in obviously it says he should come to the suit of Shabbos immediately, and he should fix whatever he damaged in eating. Marcus says it says not just Shabbos because in Gan Eden mitzvah, anything it was a mitzvah. But even that's true. Achilas Shabbos abshu mitzvah, like we just said. Come maybe barach no love. Make a bracha shega shamas sub. Abshu bo ganki attacking a gam, even though it also comes to fix the problem of eating inappropriately, which Adam Rishon and Chavos succumb to. Rak Shabbos lurak naicha. So Shabbos is something which is a time of menucha. You see, Baralukim is called Sharaslavi Neitov Ma'od. So everything was very good. Rash Al Kol Hefech Hatov. On that pasuk, Neitov Ma'od. So Chazal say Tov Ma'od and Baves. Tov Ma'od and Gehenim. Tov Ma'od and Yetzirah. Like they say, the whole bunch of drashas on Tov Ma'od. That's the opposite of really what's good, right? So evidently on Shabbos, one can take all these concepts, which are the opposite of Tov Ma'od, and make them Tov Ma'od. Just like you can take Achila on Shabbos and make something which the rest of the week would be Achila Gasa and Achila not L'Shem Shamayim. On Shabbos, you can make L'Shem Shamayim. So to Shabbos uplifts all the negative phenomena of the Bria and makes them something which are used L'Shem Shamayim. Shabbos makes it Tov Ma'od. Rak Shomaya Shitzav Hashem Yisbarach. So how did that work? Was that Hashem saw Silios Uma Yisrael that he's going to make a Jewish nation. Shikabu Oma Chusa b'Shabbos. Don't accept the yoke of Hashem's kingship on Shabbos. Yenucha b'Shabbos Kol Yiskeim. They're going to rest on Shabbos for everything they do the rest of the week. B'Zeyo no Neicha B'Olamo. And with that, he himself, not just a menucha in the sense of a rest, but he had a nachas from his world. Moshe Amru, like it says, because Hashem says at that time, Olami, Olami, my world. Havaite malas chelim fanai b'chol eis, kishem shalesel fanai b'shazu. Halavai that I should have the geschmack from you, this world, as I have at this point in time. But Reb Tzaddik was very, very precise. He said that nachas will shema asi, because eventually Am Yisrael is going to accept the Torah and keep Shabbos. Right then, there wasn't yet the concept of Shabbos. It was in the abstract, but it wasn't in practice. Therefore, Hashem is looking forward and saying, there's going to be Shabbos. When the Ummah Yisraelis comes, then there's going to be the complete, then the Bria is going to be complete. He says here, when there was the nation was already a complete nation at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim, Shekibel of Omachuso, and the Rakaba Omachus Shemaim, Asbar Mitzvah Ba'achila. So the first thing which HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave is a Mitzvah Ba'achila. Shemachnis Kedusha, which is interesting, even before the Mitzvah of Shabbos, of course. Although they kept Shabbos in Mitzrayim, but again, it wasn't the same Mitzvah like it was going to be later on. The Shemachnis Kedusha Umesakin Shoresh Abgam. It says that the eating the night of Pesach is comes to bring in Kedusha and fix the Pgam. Now, this is an important idea, which is fundamental to the Kabbalistic understanding of mitzvahs. Not everybody understands mitzvahs this way. There are many understandings of mitzvahs. But in Kabbalah, the understanding of mitzvah and Chassidus, the understanding of Kabbalah of mitzvahs is that every mitzvah brings you a specific form of Kedusha. When you do a mitzvah, you get a measure of Kedusha. That's really what the bracha seems to say. Asher kiddushanu mitzvos b'tzibanu, right? So the Hashem gave us first the mitzvah of kedusha, which can be mekadesh our achila, can make our achila holy. Umisakin shorish abgam, and it fixes the root of the bgam in the creation, the root of the deficit. Mitzvah. So one of the mitzvahs, the first one actually, we do the night of Pesach, is b'achilas yirakos, right? I don't know if he's actually referring to karpas here, because karpas is not. He's probably referring to mar, but karpas actually is supposed to represent the chet of Adam Rishon, and the karpas in the salt water is supposed to be b'zeres hapecha toch halechet, right? Adam Rishon was given this curse, and he started crying, and so but then. The Zeres HaPecha was that, okay, it was still going to eat bread, not just vegetables. But in any event, the point is that the first Achila mentioned in Torah is that, which Hashem says, you're going to, after the Chet, is Zeres HaPecha Toch HaLech. So as he brings down here, she said, the most. He started crying, right? I said, me and my donkey were going to eat from the same feed bag. When Hashem said to him, no, by the sweat of your brow, you're going to eat bread, not just vegetables. This karadaito. Hashem became more tranquil, because bread obviously is a higher level of eating than the grain or the fodder which animals eat. But the Gemara says we're still not free of this. Obviously, at the time of the Gemara, they didn't regard eating vegetables as being a tremendously wonderful thing, and nobody was given praise for being vegetarian or vegan. So the idea of eating lettuce or other types of grasses was considered to be a necessary evil of the Bria. However, we didn't have to do it, but because of the Chet of Adam Rishon, we eat Usma de Dabra. And obviously, the version is Came Shama Adam Rishon, Vachaltas Esav Asodeh, he's Dazu Evarab. You got to start shaking. Amla Kuchabri Hashem said to him, and he's Dazu Evarab since he started shaking. By the sweat of your brow, you'll eat bread. His face started sweating. I'm going to eat from the feedback like an animal. Since you started sweating, we eat bread by your toil. Like it says, how much toil Adam Rishon had to go through until he got bread. Before the Chet, because I would say bread grew on trees. Because I would say eventual future bread will grow on trees again. Why trees? So to trees, evidently a tree is a higher madrega than a vegetable. Not just kekabori prates instead of because it grows off the ground. Something which grows from the ground is not as chashuv as something which grows from a tree. So he says, he only ate things which grew off the tree and he plucked them off. Without any toil. And the wheat was also a type of tree. Moshe Amar, like we said, it used to grow in rolls on the tree. Like it will be after the fixing of Mashiach time, when again trees will produce bread. And before the Chet, there was no toil involved. After he got after this ruination, now it was asked about lechem. No, you need a lot of work to fix the bread for a person to be able to eat it. That's going to the first this way of saying that the b'zeas pecha is the way you're going to get the bread. It's because you sweated at that time when I gave you the klola. You're going to eat bread and not just grasses. Okay, I'm not sure what the nafkamina is, whether you say is going on in the future, that eventually you're going to have to sweat and make yourself bread, or it's going on this event and saying because you just now sweated, you're going to eat bread. But the point is that the idea of eating bread indicates being higher than animals. And because animals only eat unprocessed food and we eat processed. And once at a time, processed food, and once again, some point future processed food from trees. Now we have to process it ourselves. So he says that so now the tikkun comes by eating vegetables, which we acknowledge came through the klola. So he says that this going on the moror. According to some Rishonim, karpos is also moror. But in any event, the idea is that achilas moror is saying is eating from vegetables. Even this was also that should be good. She had tov ma'od. How so? In other words, we just said eating vegetables is a klola, right? But any klola of a Kodesh Baruch Hu is a tikkun. It's something which is you read l'tzorach aliyah, going down in order to come back up again. And he says, how so? Moshe Amar, like Chazal say, the lace nehora elahud in Zohar Chodesh Beis Kupei Dalim. The lace nehora elahud nothing will go chashoyta. There's no such thing as light, true light, unless it comes out of darkness. There are two reasons for this. One reason is because the light can only be appreciated in contradistinction to darkness. You don't have darkness, you won't appreciate light. And also because our avoid in this world is to take that which is dark and make it into light. And so therefore there has to be this idea of darkness for light. Elsewhere, Reb Tzaddik says that relates to Gemara, which says that in a herd of goats, the black goats always come before the white goats. The Gemara says, "Bereisha chashoicha b'hadar nahora." The contrary, kedusha. Eating these vegetables that came through the klola can provide holiness. Machnis od kedusha laguf, and brings more holiness to the body. Like we said before, any mitzvah brings kedusha into the body. There's certainly a mitzvah to eat something, brings directly kedusha in the body. So therefore, it says it's like we say by kol shlom hashloshim dvarim elu pesach le'etzei pesach matzah morar. That and we say matzah before we say morar after Pesach and matzah in order to show that the morar is also part of the gula. It's not just part of the einesh. So too, eating the vegetables and working on the vegetables at the same time as we work on ourselves. Because Chazal say that 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 by working on one's crop, one works also one's midos, and that's why Chazal say that Seder Zroim is corresponds to the word Emunan, the pasuk b'yom chachmas. So therefore, the avodah of this world is the avodah with vegetables, and using working with the vegetables to realize how we have to uplift ourselves. But then there's a higher mitzvah, which is eating matzah, shu lechem, which is the bread, right, which represents the end product. There's an additional mitzvah to eat meat. So we have vegetables, bread, meat. All these things are things before the Chet Adam Rishon was not allowed to eat these things. Rokos, who rak ayidei klola. Chazal says so. And only in God Eden, only the stuff only grew on trees. There are no vegetables. Vegetables all as a result of the klola. Mitzvahs lechem ugankin achar kilku, and the mitzvah of eating bread also came after the chet. Beforehand, whatever grain there was grew on trees and grew into whatever form of bread it was. There was no concept of making bread, and also rakli parades k'moshe amarnu. Became Pesach lo talisham achilas basar klal. Adam Rishon was never allowed to eat meat, even after the chet. The question whether Adam Rishon was allowed to eat roadkill, the meat which died on its own, it was killed, but he certainly was not allowed to deliberately slaughter meat and eat meat. Only Noach got the heter to eat meat, but before Noach, nobody was allowed to eat meat. Why is that? Before he messed up, he didn't have to fix things up. Things were fixed. Things were in a state of tikkun. There was no kilkul. There was no avodah. It's a different avodah, right? Whatever that avodah was, but it was not avodah fixed. Everything was fixed, right? He had some other higher form of avodah. But now, after stuff got ruined, so we're given all these mitzvahs to fix things, to fix matzah, to fix vegetables, to fix bread, to fix meat. Yeah, sorry.
If the whole point of eating matzah is to fix bread, so why do we do it with matzah? Why don't we do it with chametz?
So he talks about that. He talks about that elsewhere. Maybe we'll get to it next week. But he says that because you have to start without chametz. In other words, chametz bread is the higher madrega. That's in Shavuos. The carbon was chametz. Only at Shavuos. The rest of you're not allowed to bring chametz in the Beis Hamikdash. Only at Shavuos, the mitzvah shtei lechem was chametz. But you can't get there without going through matzah. Just like you can't get, there's always a danger of gaiva, which is the danger which represented by chametz. So you have to eat matzah in order to be able to get back to chametz. Okay, so that's why matzah comes first, and only afterwards it comes to chametz. So he's going to speak about that in a different piece. So he says, by a lot of Mishnah kill loads for cloud tikkun achil with divrei Torah raka in its tava mitzvahs aseiachot. One is the same because it's going to chol tachel. Shel chami priya eitz. The ain't eitz chaim ela Torah. There's only eitz chaim is Torah. Kmo shamu vu kmo b'matan Torah. So this is whatever. However they worked, you don't understand what the payloads of Gan Eden were, but somehow they had this concept of putting a person, of instilling whatever is instilled to us in Torah by learning Torah, but it's still learning Rishon by eating from the fruit of Gan Eden. Just like before the Chet, also there, before the Chet Egel, when they heard Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Talmud Torah was embedded in their hearts, like it was installed in them. The statement Anochi includes all the Torah. Shem Tarya Zina eating 613 suggestions of how to come close to Baruch Hu. Moshe Amar, like the Zohar says, all of Torah is a tool to get to the cognition of Anochi Hashem Elokecha. So too the eating Gan Eden had this quality before the thing. Kain stava love the but bikudim da say shamar bikudim lo say. Yeah, these commands which also had this quality. Again before the chet by the mitzvah say achol tochel who kol mitzvah say. You know chel meitza chaim. If you ate from the meitza chaim, v'chol his son meitza chaim shu Torah, and eating was meitza chaim, which is Torah. Mitzvah lo say meitza das tovara lo sochel. They'll kol mitzvah lo say. So again, there was one overarching mitzvah to eat and one overarching mitzvah not to eat. Shishamu lo yeh is a similar idea, but also by Matan Torah. The Anochi is all the mitzvahs I say, and lo yeh l'cha is neker lo yeh l'cha limachim was the sort of all mitzvahs lo say. So I put the Yitzhar from the heart. But after the things broke, both at the beginning of creation and later on by Matan Torah, so he needed much more in order to fix. He needed 613 mitzvahs, right? But we should needed 7 mitzvahs, which were given to him and to Noach, and by us we need 613 mitzvahs. So the achar kil tzach l'rov chachma sheitaken rov kas. You need much. Once you may have that rov kas, in other words, the avera, need much more tools in order to fix it. Rov chachma. Zen amar v'chavos esav asodeh. So, and part of that is the darkness of eating from the Esav HaSodeh. And Mitzrayim, the parallel was the hard work. And Chazal say, B'kosha is Avodah Kosha B'kushya, with questions like in Gemara. B'chomer is B'kal B'chomer, right? With making a Kal B'chomer, also like learning. L'veinim, the bricks. Libun Hilchasa, clarifying halacha. Kol avodah b'sodeh, all the work in the field. The brisa, and verse the brisa. Eich dorshus al tersh b'peh. Why does the Zohar say it's going on tersh b'peh? It's like but it's parach. It's talking about hard work, and Zohar goes off in this drush of kushya kavachomer. What's the point of this? What's the drush? So he says, "Hakomash is kabator chayayim." Right, by mus chayayim, what it means, that means shor shachayim should be Torah. This is the root of life, which is the Torah. K'moshenemar ein asayf necha hachayim. I gave you chayim. We'll see by mus chayim. Shemrus chayim chayim shalem shu a divrei Torah. So there is divrei Torah is it's going goes on a lot. So like I said, I'm gonna have to see part of this next week. But the point is that. Divrei Torah, it says Patzmel Tocho Maim Sor Tishto Earth Tishon, and it says Divrei Torah is only acquired by tremendous, Yisurim and Mesiras Nefesh. So the same this idea of Yisurim and Mesiras Nefesh, the forerunner of it in Mitzrayim was the Avodah Kasha, right? It says obviously say Gado, Malacha and Torah both Gado, Shegiah Shnei Mashkachas Lava. And the elements which Malacha does, elements Torah does, and there's a parallel between the two of them. And that means that there is an aspect of Avodah in actual Gashmias and Avodah in Ruchnias, and they correspond to each other. And they correspond also to Zeas HaPechot Lechem Adam Rishon. So you can, for some people, and for certain madrigas, you can accomplish that completely in Torah. Another madrigas, you can only accomplish it also by simple physical work. But there's a correspondence between the two, and both of them are the necessary choshech in order to get to the or, right? And that's like Gemara says in Kin, Ein Adam Omer Al Divrei Torah L'Kein Nichshel B'Hem Tchila. You only get to understanding Torah if you make mistakes, right? You have to fail first in order to succeed. First, you don't succeed, try again. The pshat is you must fail first in order to succeed afterwards. So in both cases, after the Chet of Adam Rishon and after the Chet of Am Yisrael by the Chet Ego, there has to be there has to be failure, trial, and error until we finally get to a tikkun. Okay, so it comes with toil and difficulty, even needle chain, losing sleep, with tsar gadol, and a lot of anguish. And that's the chachma which comes to fix the kas, the tikkun for avera. Zer shedash kol shens the tersh ba'peh, shu rov chachma takin rov kas. That and as shemoli chot Yisrael lo nidam el chamisha chumshi Torah, uklam kol divrei Torah tersh ba'peh. Oh, that's amazing Gemara. When it says, if not for the fact that we sin, all we have given chamisha chumshi Torah and Sefer Yoshua. Because Yeshua is about Eretz Yisrael, the conquest of Eretz Yisrael. But the reason we have so much more Torah is because we need to teach Masaki and many, many more things. So again, if there would have been no Chet Ego, there would have been 6 books, Chamisha Chum Shidon and Sefer Yoshua. But there are 24 for him, and of course, Torah Shema Peh, because once you go down, if you don't go down, you don't need so much to function properly. Once you go down, it's much harder to extricate yourself. You need to have much more Torah. There's an advantage in that, because and Rav speaks out the cell, so he says, you know what? Going down gave us a lot more Torah. So on the one hand, it's more difficult, but on the other hand, there's a bracha. So the cheshech led to more or, but it's also it's necessary that it be that way, because once you go down, you need much more effort in order to raise yourself up again. And the matzah mora, in the aspect of lechem only, of poor, the bread of our affliction, it comes by this bitterness. Okay, we're going to lose the connection in a minute. We'll have to try and remember this. We're up to try and make and we'll finish the next. We'll finish the next week. Okay. Go ahead. I like this piece. It's a great piece. Okay, have a good week.
Sure.
Okay, goodbye.